Hi everybody, this is day 4 of Wizard of Oz. So today we're going to continue reading and continue to think about characters and setting, but also keep in mind that today's assignment is going to be to write a summary of what's happened up to now in our story. Feel free to watch the rest of the videos again so that you can write a good summary and have fun.
When Dorothy was left alone, she set about making ready for the journey to the City of Emeralds. She had only one other dress, and that was hanging on a peg beside her bed. The girl dressed herself in the clean gingham. Gingham is a type of fabric that looks like that. The girl dressed herself in the clean gingham with white and blue checks, and tied her pink sunbonnet on her head. She took a little basket and filled it with bread from the cupboard, laying a white cloth over the top. Then she looked down at her feet and noticed how worn her shoes were. "They will surely never do for a long journey, Toto," she said. And Toto looked up into her face and wagged his tail to show he knew what she meant. At that moment, Dorothy saw the silver shoes that had belonged to the Witch of the East. She said to Toto, "They would be just the thing." She took off her old leather shoes and tried on the silver ones. There are the silver shoes. If you've seen the movie, the shoes in the movie are a different color. I wonder if you know what the color was in the movie. In the original book, though, which is this one, the shoes were silver. Those are pretty. They fitted her well, as if they had been made for her. Finally, she picked up her basket. "Come along, Toto," she said. "We will go to the Emerald City and ask the Great Oz how to get back to Kansas again." She closed the door, locked it, and put the key carefully in the pocket of her dress. And so, with Toto trotting along soberly behind her, she started on her journey. There were several roads nearby, but it didn't take long to find the one paved with yellow brick. Within a short time, she was walking briskly toward the Emerald City, her silver shoes tinkling merrily on the hard yellow roadbed. The sun shone bright, and the birds sang sweet, and Dorothy did not feel nearly as bad as you might think a little girl would in a strange land. She was surprised, as she walked along, to see how pretty the country was about her. There were neat fences at the sides of the road, painted a dainty blue color, and beyond them were fields of grain and vegetables in abundance. Abundance means there's a lot. Once in a while, she would pass a house, and the people came out to look at her and bow low as she went by, for everyone knew she had been the means of destroying the witch. The houses of the Munchkins were odd-looking dwellings. A dwelling is a house or a place you would live. The Munchkins were odd-looking dwellings, for each was round with a big dome roof. And there's like a big dome. A dome is like that. With a big dome roof. All were painted blue, for in this East Country, blue was the favorite color. Toward evening, when Dorothy was tired with her long walk, she came to a house rather larger than the rest. On the green lawn before it, many men and women were dancing. 5 little fiddlers played as loudly as possible, and the people were laughing and singing, while a big table nearby was loaded with delicious fruits and nuts, pies and cakes, and many other good things to eat. The people greeted Dorothy kindly and invited her to supper and to pass the night with them and to celebrate their freedom from the bondage of the Wicked Witch. Dorothy was waited upon by a munchkin named Bock. She watched the people dance. Bock saw her silver shoes and said, "You must be a great sorceress." "Why?" asked the girl. "Because you wear the silver shoes and have killed the Wicked Witch. Besides, you have white in your frock." A frock is he's talking about her dress. "You have white in your frock, and only witches and sorceresses wear white." "My dress is blue and white checked," said Dorothy. "It's kind of you to wear that," said Bock. "Blue is the munchkin color, and white is the witch color, so we know you are a friendly witch." Dorothy didn't know what to say, for everyone seemed to think her a witch, and she knew very well she was an ordinary little girl. When she had tired, Bock led her into the house, where he gave her a room with a pretty bed in it. Dorothy slept soundly till morning, with Toto curled up beside her. After breakfast, she asked Bock how far it was to the Emerald City. "I do not know," answered Bock gravely, "for I have never been there. But it is a long way to the Emerald City, and it will take you many days. The country here is pleasant, but you must pass through rough and dangerous places before you reach the end of your journey." This worried Dorothy a little, but she knew that only the Great Oz could help her to get to Kansas again, so she bravely resolved not to turn back. She bade her friends goodbye and again started along the road of yellow brick. When she had gone several miles, she thought she would stop to rest, and so climbed to the top of the fence beside the road and sat down. There was a great cornfield beyond the fence, and not far away she saw a scarecrow placed high on a pole to keep the birds from the ripe corn. Dorothy leaned her chin upon her hand and gazed thoughtfully at the scarecrow. Its head was a small sack stuffed with straw, with eyes, nose, and a mouth painted on it to represent a face. Then Dorothy was surprised to see one of the eyes slowly wink at her. She thought she must have been mistaken, for Kansas scarecrows never wink, but presently it nodded to her in a friendly way. "Good day," said the scarecrow in a rather husky voice. "Did you speak?" asked the girl in wonder. "Certainly," answered the scarecrow. "How do you do?" "I'm pretty well, thank you," replied Dorothy. "How do you do?" "I'm not feeling well," said the scarecrow with a smile, "for it's very tedious being perched up here to scare away crows." "Well, can't you get down?" asked Dorothy. "No, for this pole is stuck up my back. If you will please take away the pole, I shall be greatly obliged to you." Dorothy lifted the figure off the pole. For being stuffed with straw, it was quite light. "Thank you," he said. "Who are you, and where are you going?" "Well, my name is Dorothy, and I'm going to the Emerald City to ask the Great Oz to send me back to Kansas." "Where's the Emerald City?" he inquired. "And who is Oz?" "Why, you don't know?" she returned, surprised. "No, indeed, I don't know anything. You see, I'm stuffed, so I have no brains at all," he answered sadly. "Do you think, if I go to the Emerald City with you, that the Great Oz would give me some brains?" "I cannot tell," she returned, "but you may join me. If Oz won't give you any brains, you'll be no worse off than you are now." "That's true," said the scarecrow. "You see," he continued confidentially, I don't mind my body being stuffed because I cannot get hurt. But I do not want people to call me a fool, and if my head always stays stuffed with straw instead of with brains, as yours is, how am I ever to know anything?
So the Scarecrow wants some brains. And Dorothy wants to go back to Kansas. I wonder if the Great Oz can do those things.
They walked back to the yellow brick road and started along the path for the Emerald City. Toto sniffed and growled at the Scarecrow. "Don't mind Toto," said Dorothy. "He never bites." "Oh, I'm not afraid of him. All I'm afraid of is a lighted match. Tell me about where you come from," he said as they walked. So she told him about Kansas and how gray everything was there. The Scarecrow could not understand why she wished to leave this beautiful country and go back to the gray place called Kansas.
You look surprised.
"Well, that's because you have no brains," answered the girl. "No matter how dreary and gray our homes are, people would rather live there than anywhere else. There's no place like home." Toward the evening, they came to a great forest, where the trees grew so big and close together that their branches met over the road of yellow brick and shut out the remaining daylight. They stumbled along in the darkness until the Scarecrow saw a little cottage. He led her to it, and Dorothy soon fell into a sound sleep with Toto beside her. The Scarecrow, who was never tired, stood up in a corner and waited patiently until morning came. When Dorothy awoke, the sun was shining, and Toto was already out chasing birds and squirrels. She sat up and looked around. There was the Scarecrow, still patiently waiting for her. They left the cottage and walked until they found a little spring where Dorothy drank and bathed. Through the trees was a clearing by the roadside. There they sat down, and Dorothy opened her basket. She offered some bread to the Scarecrow, but he refused. "I am never hungry," he said, "and it's a lucky thing I'm not, for my mouth is only painted, and if I should cut a hole into it so I could eat, the straw I am stuffed with would come out, and that would spoil the shape of my head." Dorothy saw at once that this was true, so she nodded and asked, "Won't you tell me a story while we are resting?" The Scarecrow looked at her reproachfully and answered, "My life has been so short that I really know nothing whatever. I was only made the day before yesterday. When the farmer made my head, one of the first things he did was to paint my ears so that I could hear what was going on. Then he painted my right eye, and as soon as it was finished, I found myself looking at him and everything around me with a great deal of curiosity, for this was my first glimpse of the world. The farmer carried me to the cornfield and set me up on a tall stick where you found me.